Welcome back to the Big Trail Show. As always, we're joined by our Hog Hoops insider, Kevin McPherson, to talk some Hog basketball, which I know a lot of people want to know about right now with the status of the football team being as it is. So let's give the people what they want, right, Kevin? Let's talk about their first exhibition win over UT Tyler, Division II team. That was on Friday night. The Hogs took them down pretty handedly, 92-39. But the big talk of the night all over my social media feed was the return of one Trevin Brazil. He looked really good in his return back. I mean, the stat sheet, he didn't look too crazy on the stat sheet, but I really like that impressive dunk he had. He played just over 19 minutes. Kevin, what did you see from him?
No offensive coordinator issues for Arkansas in this game. 92 points, but it's an inferior opponent. This is a team with a brand new coach, 9-17 last year, only one returning player. You got to take it with a grain of salt. But Trevor Brazil, to me, then is the headline. So I'm glad you led with it because here's a guy that we just 2 weeks ago, we didn't know for sure exactly when he was coming back to practice to do. I mean, he was practicing, but the 5-on-5 live scrimmaging, which is what basketball is, 5-on-5. And, you're going against an opponent and going head to head. And within the last 9 days, basically leading up to Friday and through Friday's game, he not only went through pro day doing 5-on-5, he blew away those NBA scouts representing at least 23 teams. One of the scouts telling me this guy looked like a lottery pick, top 5, top 10, didn't hardly miss a shot. Then early in the week, this week, he's preseason pick, all SEC first team. And then when we even then, Musselman talked about maybe he goes Friday night, maybe not. They did expect him to play against Purdue. This was on Wednesday at SEC Media Day. See, as we went through the week, we'd already heard some good things about Pro Day, the All SEC pick, but we still had question marks. Brazil played the third most minutes on the team with those 19 minutes. Checked in just under 15 minutes to go. His first basket was a dandy. He was off balance, a little contorting shot off the glass. He told me in the postgame press conference he thought he was fouled on that play. You mentioned the dunk, but that was part of a cluster of plays. Defensive rebound on one end, ensuing offensive possession, shot missed on goal. He goes up over 2 defenders for just an explosive acrobatic rebound, comes down, and then it's that pogo stick hops. That's what separates him. He doesn't have to gather. He doesn't have to think about it. Boom, boom, back up, and now he's dunking on somebody. So, again, you said it, the stat sheet, 4 points, 3 rebounds, a block. What we're paying attention to, because he's not going to be consistently hit on all cylinders after missing nearly a year of basketball, right? But the fact that he played and had played that many minutes, Musselman said maybe 4 to 6 minutes a half was the anticipation. I thought Brazil showed well in a game where everybody looked good, but just seeing him on the court looked good, Courtney.
Absolutely, Kevin. And you mentioned everybody looked good. So let's talk about some of those other guys. One guy I've been talking about this entire offseason, and that's just because I've been covering him since the JUCO level. It feels like he's been playing basketball for 10 years now. At the collegiate level, I know that's not the case, but Ellis, I mean, he looks like just an amazing point guard for the Hogs this season. Looking at the stat sheet, he was 4 of 6 with 9 points. He had 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Look at that, all over the place. You love to see the balanced stat sheet there. Kevin, what do you see from a guy like that?
Not a true traditional point guard in that sense, but all that matters is how does he fit in with what Musselman's trying to do? You can't argue with what he's done so far in dress rehearsals. I mean, I go back to the open scrimmage for media. He didn't take a shot in the 5-on-5. He was looking to set guys up. Then in the red-white game, 16 points and 6 assists, 16 points on 8 of 10 field goals, 6 assists led that game, only 1 turnover. And then you mentioned Friday night his stats. The 4 assists and 4 steals were both game highs, all right? And the scoring, 9 points. You mentioned the shooting. He had 7 of Arkansas's first 12 points, and he did it all 3 levels. The first score of the game on a drive, getting to the bucket off the glass, tough finish, a pull-up mid-range jumper, a three-pointer. He assisted on a three-pointer to Chandler Lawson, so he accounted for 10 of those first 12 points. Arkansas jumps out 12-2. They never looked back. It was bye-bye from there. And Ellis helped stake Arkansas to that start. I mean, he really did. So even against inferior competition, what are the guys who you're going to be counting on do? You can't ask for more. 2 dress rehearsals combined, red, white, and now this game, 25 points on 75% field goal shooting, 10 assists, 6 and 4 respectively in these 2 games. Both games he's got game highs and assists, 1 combined turnover. So no turnovers against UT Tyler. Granted, he only played 16 minutes, but look, no one was needed to play extensive minutes in that game. He did his job. To me, this guy has cemented that lead guard kind of guy because I look at skill, the way he reads plays and makes decisions on when to shoot, when to facilitate, promoting good ball movement, competency on defense, that overall basketball experience you talked about when you covered him. This guy was Louisville's leading scorer and assist guy last year. Everything so far looks good. Courtney, as Arkansas now moves against a real test against Purdue, probably a more trustworthy measuring stick for Ellis and other guys as they then take the next step to the regular season.
Absolutely. I know you say he's not a traditional point guard, but man, he could fool me. He looks so good. It's that basketball IQ, right? Where you can step into really any role because you're just that good at the game. And that's what Ellis is when I look at him as a basketball player. Moving on to some of those other guys that you talked about. Khalif Battle, look at him. He looked really good in that one. I know he tweeted out earlier in the week. He's like, guys, don't worry. I'm ready. I'm back. He had a game high 14 points, 12 of those coming in the second half. Really quickly, Kevin, what'd you see from him?
Well, he returned to practice Monday. He missed pro day. He missed the red-white game. He missed chunks of practice time in July and when they got back to fall semester. And he checks in late first half, scores a transition bucket to end, somewhere late in the first half. But what I noticed immediately was his dog mentality on defense, physicality, quickness, getting up into his man, and challenging a guy just getting a dribble on the court, let alone choose a direction to go. So I noticed his defense first, scored most of his points late in that game, but you saw him at all three levels. You saw him 4-4 at the free throw line, 2 of 3 from 3. He is volume as a three-point shooter and as a free throw shooter, nearly 90% at Temple from the free throw line, and nearly 38% when you look at his last 2 seasons, 34 games combined at Temple. That's why they brought him in. He's a top 6, 7 rotation guy if he's available. You'll love seeing him available. You love seeing what he did again. We got to put that caveat out. This team, I know we like D2 sometimes. We know they can be tough. This was a little different. Arkansas had its way with everybody in there, but it was great to see Battle back. I thought he showed well, given his opportunity. I saw no ill effects with him or Brazil in terms of injury in that game.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit about another injury that we have, but we'll get into that. Let's talk about some of these other guys really, really quickly, Kevin, because I know people want to know about them. Chandler Lawson, Tremont Mark were in the starting lineup. They both contributed as well. Mark even led off that little second half run. He had a 3 and he had a dunk. So both of those guys, real quick for us.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, you mentioned it. Second half, he started the game at second half along with Pinion hitting 3 threes. Arkansas really blew that big lead out. But Mark, finished in double figures, scoring 1 of 3 with 10 points. I love his versatility, especially defensively. I think he's acclimating. And when you talk about Chandler Lawson, here's a guy I think Arkansas is really plugged in that top 8 right now. He's maybe at the back end, but he's so versatile and he can help Arkansas with the Brazil still working his way into things, giving Arkansas that front line depth at the 4 and some small ball lineup versatility he brings. But he had a lot of deflections, a couple of block shots, hit a 3 early to get Arkansas to that early lead. But the other things he did, rebounding with 5, I mentioned the 2 blocks, a lot of deflections, a disruptor and a connector, Courtney. He connects at both ends of the floor. He connects other guys and things you're trying to do. Some people call that a glue guy. I also call it a guy that just helps you connect things. Those guys are invaluable. You don't always look at stats, but how did they impact the game? So I liked what I saw from both of those guys, and you understood why Musselman rewarded them with starts in this game.
Absolutely. It was good to see those guys and see just a little bit of the depth that this team has, because you talk about it. All of these guys have come in and contributed. It was funny to see Mikai Mitchell and Devo Davis come off the bench in this one. I thought they were going to start, but, it was a test for them early on in the season. Let's talk about both those guys. Mikai Mitchell coming off the bench. He did well, 3 of 3 with 9 points and 4 rebounds. Devo Davis, 4 of 6 with 9 points and 7 rebounds. How do you feel about those 2 returners?
I feel great about him. And look, first of all, Musselman wanted to reward Joseph Pinion and the freshman Bayfall a chance to be starters. Nothing wrong with that. But if there was any opportunity for trickery there on what a rotation might be looked like, he didn't fool me, because those 2 guys, Davis and Mitchell, checked in less than 3 minutes into the game. And so then they were on the court with Mark and Ellis, and the only guy that hadn't checked in yet was Brazil. So you understood right away, these are basically your 4 starters plus Brazil being 5. It didn't work that way in the true starting lineup on Friday night. Arkansas didn't need to run out their true starters to win that game or to have a great start. But either way, Mitchell, you mentioned it. I like the 3 of 3 at the foul line. Why? Because Mikai last year in the 60% at the free throw line, he's going to get fouled. He's going to have to make free throws. He's a starter. He's a 25 to 30-minute guy probably this season. Maybe, no worse than 20 minutes a game, but it's going to be more than that, in my opinion. So I like to see that. And some of the other things he does. And of course, Devo Davis, what can we say? 9 points, efficient shooting, 0 for 2 from 3. So what? He's been really solid from there. You're not looking at that, but 7 rebounds to lead the team, 3 assists, 1 shy of what Ellis did, and then 2 steals of his own. His toughness, the things he brings to the court, his savvy, the leadership, all of it. What's not to love about Devo Davis and Mikai Mitchell checking in 3 minutes? So they didn't start. All right, big deal.
Big deal. It was an exhibition game, their first one against a D2 team. Guys, right. Chill out. Everyone who's saying, why didn't they start? Why didn't they start? Chill out. We have a lot more basketball to play. I talked about the injuries, kind of a notable one, Jaylen Graham not playing. He's out right now. Musselman saying it's a back issue. Kevin, kind of quickly and briefly talk about what's going on with him.
Well, he didn't go through pro day, and that scout that gave me all the information about his thoughts on a lot of players and things said Graham, but we knew Battle didn't go, but confirmed that Graham didn't go. And then when I checked on that off the record, I was told what the issue was. I couldn't put it out, but I didn't have any updates to know if he would be available or not. So I didn't know if he'd play or not. I just knew to keep an eye on it. And all of my reporting leading up the past week, I said, keep an eye on Graham. We'll see if he goes or if he's limited. Well, he didn't go. He was in street clothes when the team was going through pregame warmups. I was tweeting out video of that, and then he wasn't in the lineup. So he's the one guy when we were so much talking about Battle and Brazil's availability. He was the guy who was unavailable. Musselman addressed it after in the postgame press conference, said he has back spasms, and that's day to day. They're keeping an eye on it. He said only practiced didn't go through pro day and only practiced once since dealing with it. So only one practice in the last week or so. We'll see if he progresses enough to be ready for Purdue, but Musselman made it sound like it's not anything serious, and they expect him back soon.
Well, that's good. Good news for everybody here who was like, ooh, they saw your tweets and they went, what's going on with Jaylen Graham? What is going on? We don't like to see that. I don't like to see injuries early on this season. I like seeing Khalif Battle play. I like hearing things are not serious, and I can't wait to see when Jaylen Graham comes back, because I think he's another addition and piece to this team and that depth that we talked about just earlier in the show. Moving on to a little bit of that game, a little bit more. It was nice to see some threes. They were 11 of 34 from behind the arc. But, hey, I liked seeing Joseph Pinion, Jeremiah Davenport knock down some threes. Talk about if that's going to be something we see improve this year, Kevin.
Oh, my goodness. Arkansas averaged less than 16 3 attempts per game last year. I think that was bottom 15 or 20 in NCAA Division I. They certainly ranked in the 300s in efficiency. That's why the game plan was to keep the attempts down. They let 34 attempts fly. They were letting them fly in the red-white game. They were letting them fly in the open scrimmage, the open part of that scrimmaging the other day that media got to see. So, look, this doesn't surprise me at all that they shot that many. I think it helps open up other things. Musselman probably wants to see the efficiency a little bit higher. But, look, Arkansas got those first 2 early threes from Ellis and Chandler Lawson. Then they were 2 of 9. They were 2 of 9, and Davenport checks in, and immediately, boom, boom, boom. He goes 3 of 5. Not only does he more than double the production and makes, but the percentages and the efficiency went up a little bit. He's a quick strike guy. In the second half, earlier you mentioned Tremont Mark hitting a 3. And you also had Joseph Pinion knocking down his 3 threes in the most of it early stages of the second half. So Arkansas's got more than one guy. Battle hitting 2 of 3. We know Devo's going to be, his efficiency's gone up, and he's going to be selective and do a good job shooting from 3. I think that'll continue. Trevor Brazil's going to be a guy that's going to be able to shoot and knock down threes. Chandler Lawson, don't be surprised when he helps a little bit from there. So there's more than one guy to get it done. When you look at 11 of 34, you like that. I think the only other thing is Arkansas, shooting 46% against that opponent overall. Some of that has to do with some of those 3 misses, but also I think Arkansas, when I look at shot selection and some of it, they want to get to the foul line. They did 19 of 23. They were awful last year at the foul line, 69%, not very good this year. And in this game, over nearly 83%. So you'll take that. I think some of the shot selection maybe could be cleaned up a little bit, and maybe more opportunities, even though 23 attempts sounds like a lot. I think Arkansas could have maybe gotten itself to the line at least 30 times against this opponent, with maybe going a little deeper on some of the decisions made on shot selection.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hope that that just gets better and better as it goes on. Again, this is the first exhibition we're talking about. It's so early on where I'd rather see them let him fly and give it a go instead of maybe limiting the attempts there from behind behind the arc. So I like to see that a lot. Defense, Musselman was happy with that. They limited UT Tyler to 0 of 8 from behind the arc, if I'm correct on that, early on. And then limited them to 12 points in the first half. I mean, I know Musselman was like, man, it was a really good showing from the defense, Kevin. You like to see that, especially when he's in the red-white game. Defense, we need to do better on.
Look, Arkansas held an opponent to 39 points, and it could have been in the 20s. I thought there was some mercy whistles in that second half to get this opponent to the free throw line for the refs. No official wants to say, hey, I officiated a game where there was a 70-point differential and the other team didn't get to 30. For whatever reason, I could be wrong about that, but I thought there was a little help there. But Arkansas holds an opponent under 25% field goal shooting, 24.5%, 1 of 20 from 3 overall. That's 5%. You can't ask more. 20 turnovers forced, 12 steals. Those guards were collectively feisty, physical, fierce in that backcourt against, inferior players. I mean, that's for sure. And a team just learning about itself. But Arkansas looked great defensively, Courtney. You said it. 22-5 advantage to me was the stat of the game when you're talking points off turnovers.
That is a huge, huge stat. I love to see the points off turnovers. Whew, that's a good one, especially going into this Purdue exhibition, which is looming around the corner. And we will talk about that a little bit closer to that game. Yeah. Kevin, we got to do a quick recruiting update because I know you have some updates on that. I saw that you did a little interview with the Maumelle 2026 Arkansas prospect in Jacob Lanier, if I got that correct. And he said he was going to be at the Duke game, right?
He's coming to the Duke game. That's breaking news. Arkansas Duke late. No, I think it's November 29th.
Yes,
the first ever ACC SEC challenge. So he's planning to be there. I got to watch him practice later in the week. I think it was Thursday, and then on Monday, earlier in the week, I got to see another 2026 Central Arkansas offer the composite national number 17, a 5-star player, Jashawn J.J. Andrews, the son of Sean Andrews, the former first-team All-American Arkansas Razorback offensive lineman who was All-Pro in the NFL for a number of years. But both of these young men in that class of 2026 are, you can look around at some of these recruiting rankings nationally. I mentioned Andrews at 17. Lanier's in the top 30 at 29 in one of the services. So both of these guys are nationally regarded, have multiple high major offers. Got to watch both practice, and I am satisfied at this juncture in their development that what I see translates to some of these rankings, and also why Arkansas is offering them and making these guys priority, getting them. They've both been up for unofficial visits. For Lanier, you mentioned that Arkansas Duke game. Arkansas will have some more visitors, by the way, I expect. We can't put some of it out now, but maybe later in the week for this Purdue game, this exhibition game coming up Saturday. But that's what's going on recruiting for me this past week, just putting eyes on some of these young recruits, because I think Arkansas might be done in 2024 with the 2 they've got committed. And we'll sign in early November, by the way, but about 2 weeks away when that early period starts. But these 2026 guys, don't sleep on them. They're excellent basketball players nationally already.
Yeah, I know you'll keep us updated on those guys as well on your social media. You do a great job of that. I know I talk about it every week, but your Twitter is AR Hoop Scoop. If you want to get the latest on those Arkansas recruits, go to you right there. I know you do some great stuff over there and great interviews and things like that. And then I want to talk to you about this too, Kevin, before we let you go. Saw you were in OKC, right? Getting to hang out with Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, Bobby Portis. I saw Arkansas coach Ronnie Brewer Jr. there. I mean, what were you getting to do over there?
Well, I cover all levels of basketball in Arkansas, Courtney, is what I do, including in the Pro Hogs. And so if you're going to cover them, you got to go. I'm not a keyboard warrior where I just, chime in on the backs of others. I go. So I kid, but you never know in preseason who's actually going to play. Isaiah Joe played. Bobby sat out. Jaylen Williams was held out a hamstring issue that'll may cause him to miss a few regular season games. By the way, regular season starts on Tuesday. Moses Moody and the Warriors Tuesday night on opening night on TNT. He'll be on the court. But going back to preseason, it's only 4 or 5 games max for each team. It goes by pretty fast. But my Pro Hog preseason player of preseason was Isaiah Joe. So I got to see him play another efficient night. He's in the top 6 rotation at OKC. An organization now that was in a play-in game for the play, one win away from making the playoffs last year out of the Western Conference. They are playing this year to move up and get themselves into the playoffs, maybe a top 6 seed. Well, it's a deep, deep Western Conference, but they're making their case. And Isaiah Joe's in the top 6 rotation. I believe Jaylen Williams went back healthy. Will be also playing off the bench in the top 8-9 rotation. So both of those guys are doing well. Bobby Portis, of course, is Razorbacks royalty. To me, he's still the ambassador of the Pro Hogs. Entering his ninth season, he and Moody both have been part of NBA titles in the last 3 years. Bobby at Milwaukee 3 years ago, and so he's going to be a big part of what Milwaukee's doing. Gafford is a starter with the Wizards now. Had a nice preseason. But just to wrap things up, I've got preseason Pro Hog players of preseason. I mentioned Isaiah Joe. I'm going to put Moses Moody in there too. They both averaged well into double-figure scoring. They both were very efficient shooting the ball overall and from 3 and at the free throw line. I think Isaiah Joe went 13 of 14 at the foul line, well over 90%. And then my Pro Hog rookie of preseason is Nick Smith Jr., nearly 8 points a game, 3 rebounds, which is more than double what he averaged at Arkansas. And he shot 50% on field goals in about 14 minutes per game playing off the bench with the Hornets. We'll see if he at some point factors into the rotation. I think initially probably not. And we may see him in the G League a lot, along with guys like Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh, because those guys are not necessarily going to be in the rotation right away. And when that's the case, people are always like, why are they in the G League? Something's not working. No, that's how it's done. A lot of the top players in the NBA, some of the best, had to go through some of the G League stuff early. So keep an eye on those guys. One thing, Ricky Council IV was waived and released. He was on a 2-way deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, and that happened just a couple of days ago.
Oh, darn. I hate to hear that because I know someone will pick him up. I mean, he's too good of a player not to, right, Kevin?
You know, at some point, he's a guy, a lot of guys, their journey's a little bit different. So we'll see. It very well could be that a team that likes him has seen enough to add him as a 2-way, or he gets in some Exhibit A, one of these Exhibit 10 deals that are non-guaranteed, but it gives you a chance to get on the G League team. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to play professional ball and get more chances and cracks and shots at the NBA.
Well, I hope so, because I love seeing him play, and all the other guys as well. Nick Smith Jr., every guy you mentioned, Isaiah Joe, Moses Moody. Can't wait to watch them in action this upcoming season. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today, Kevin. We're going to have more Pig Trail coming up after the break. Stay with us.